Right, Honorable Kivejinja, thanks very much for accepting to talk with us on this comprehensive interview about Uganda's political and economic social history. Let me start by asking you to give me a brief of how far do you know before the formation of DP, the formation of political activism in Uganda, just before the king's exile to London.
Well, ever since I started to be a very active political animal, when I was mainly a student in India, that's when I really took seriously to understand my country and of the African plight, and I began jogging my brain as what can be done to make it better. I got to know quite a lot. I read quite a lot. And by the time I took the decision to say, let me be part of the factors that will bring about change in my country, I had grasped quite a good part of the history of our country and appreciated more of the plights, and I came to the conclusion that a change is inevitable and it must be done.
What do you know about the formation of UNC?
You cannot talk of UNC without talking about Musazi. And therefore you need to understand Musazi himself. Musazi is one of the children of the Uganda gentry. One of the few who fought all the other wars against the Protestants and against the Catholics. And as a result, he's one of the 1,000 Baganda who distributed Uganda among themselves under the British. They got 8 square miles in Bulemezi. Now, this having been born from such a high family, his father was a man of means, and he took him to the public school in Britain, and he studied with the sons of lords and the British gentry. Now, at the end of their school career, the children of the gentry normally used to be encouraged to carry on 3 professions. One, the army, then I think there was another one traditional for them, and then to be the prince of the church. So this one decided to become a prince of the church. So they went.
Prince of the church meant?
The church servant, the reverends, the bishop. Yeah, those are. Yeah.
For the benefits of our viewers.
Yeah, prince of the church. That's the priests and whatnot, the priestly class. Now, when they finished their course, his friends were ordained. And for him, he says, as you are coming from Uganda, you'll be ordained by the Church of Uganda. So he came back unordained. He went to the bishop of Uganda and says, I have finished all my course. I want to serve the church. So do the necessary, ordain me. He says, hello, don't you know that you are an African? You go to Mukono and become an African catechist. So Musazi felt very offended. And he threw his collar down and said, bye-bye. He said, no, the only solution is to really form an organization to get rid of the British. So that's when he formed the Uganda National Congress. After the Congress, like the African National Congress in South Africa, and the Indian National Congress in India. And that was the model. He assembled his executive. And now, he says, now, this is the movement that is going to chase the British out. The objective is only one, independence. When? Now. When we were in India, a group of us were in India. Now, when India got independence, Nehru decided that he wanted to give a chance to African students to go and study in India. 1, to vibrate their brain. 2, to see for themselves what an independent country can do. Now, when we went there, we found that there was a group of about 300 students from different parts of Africa that were there. Nehru told them to form the African Students Association, and he became the patron. Then he was able, those student leaders who had, he invited them, brought them closer to him. He invited them to his house. They spent weekends with them, discussing, doing what. And then from there he got a core of those whom he thought would be better for grooming. He formed them into the Africa Bureau. Now this Africa Bureau, he gave them money and they published Resurgent Africa. And it became highly political. And this group, he made them to commit that you should not do anything. Those who committed themselves that they are not going to seek for any job other than to fight for the country's independence. And I'm one of them. Chintu Msoka is one of them. And the late Engur and Ongom is dead. He was the professor of public health. We are about 60 Ugandans in India. Could be able to sit down, articulate the problems of Uganda, articulate the problems of Africa, and decide a chart how we should inject ourselves to propel the country's independence.
The genesis of Obote. Most people believe that if Obote had not come onto the political scene, Uganda wouldn't have got independence that soonest.
No, I don't think. You see, with the social development, you can never say if you are not born, there will be no other person who will be born. History would have turned a different way, but would have continued in that direction. Yeah. So the question of saying, if so and so was not then, no, I think that is it. But the question is, I think to appreciate Obote's entry, I have to bring you exactly, that's when we come in, we, the Indian group. Having been in India and studied our country, we came to the conclusion that unless some of us inject ourselves into the political melodrama of Uganda, it will continue wallowing with no cause, with no answer. So we began strategizing. How do we inject ourselves and yet be of use to galvanize the national movement? So in 1959, Kakonge finished his master's degree in economics. He was given a trip to Japan by the Quakers. From there, we made a party for him. And at the party, we talked, of course, about the problems of Uganda, what can be done. And then he said, well, this question has been occupying. And you know, Kakonge was not part of the members of the Africa Bureau. You know, if I go back, I don't know what one person can do. Or should I stay around so that when you all come back, then we can start together? And the council came to us, we were very clear. Said, my friend, we cannot decide matters of strategy and tactics 6,000 miles away from the sea. You go, study the whole of the political drama. Then you communicate to us. We shall be able to give you guidance because you will be on the ground. But you cannot decide now. Supposing we say, start here and you fail. So he came back. And we never took him seriously. Because after all, he was not serious. He was not one of the hardcore. Yeah. So when he came back, he took a tour of all the political groupings. By then, Mayanja also had come back. And Mayanja had come in 1957. He had been cited by Nehru in Cambridge and invited him to India. So when he was there, he made an extensive tour of India. By then I had just gone also to India. I met him in Madras. He stayed a good part in Calcutta. He stayed with some people in Delhi. So we had a good image, and we agreed that I think when we come back, this is our way.
Okay, let's look at the post-independent Uganda. How did you guys try to concretize the self-rule, Uganda under self-rule at that time?
Not self-rule. By then it was independent.
Well, independent Uganda now.
We went to independence when actually we are suspecting each other. It's like a marriage. It's all consumed. You are in the bed. All ceremonies are finished. But you have discovered that actually one is duping you. So it was shaky. And we did not have anything other than struggles. 1963, that was that's when we consolidated. We tried to be in the party. We reorganized. I was made the Secretary for Research and Information Bureau. In fact, Obote's backroom advisor, speechwriter, and a party theoretician. So that was a period when we were looking at each other, but actually not trusting each other. And 63, we were supposed to have a delegates conference. We did not have one. The president refused to call it. Then he got married. We were there. Then he went to Nigeria for his honeymoon. When he was there, he directed through his agents of the executive to expel with the party officials, Kirunda Kivejinja, Wadada Musani, Sabatanda Mutanda. So he said, this is too much. We had the party in the hands. We mobilized the whole of Uganda. We had a national council. Nullified what it did. And they confirmed us on permanent basis to be in the party. So he was forced to work with us. He waited for 1 year. The thing was not changing. So he got courage to have the fourth party conference in Guru.
The period, people refer to the period between 1971 and 1979 as the death of a nation.
I don't know. The nation never dies, except that it may suffer. It died. Then are we Jesus? Have we brought it back? The question that was a period of mismanagement. But the greatest problem that people heap all the blame on Amin, knowing that society, you cannot cheat nature. Amin was not educated. It was not his fault that he never went to school. But society had decreed that such people should not do what? Should not go to school. Now, but then they were necessary in the system to frighten people, to be able to wage wars, to go and kick the Kabaka out, which they themselves, the educated, cannot do. Now, when they failed in their programs, this man was the only person around. If he was not in the system, where would have Amin come to become a president? It was a fault in the colonial system. Because in the colonial system, no officer above at the rank of a lieutenant could be allowed to be an African. Their means were just sergeants. When Obote failed to realize that, especially in 1964, when we told him and gave him a formula as to how to rebuild the army, he refused and reinforced Amin. He was creating a monster, and after all, his successor. Because after him, it is only him. To succeed your father, you must be a son of the dead. Yeah. And if by proxy this man got and was not fit, it will be like any of your children whom you think is useless, but you bring him near, even if you make a will, and he captures the will by proxy, the first thing is it will be to kill all the fellows who would challenge him.
After the fall of Idi Amin, do you agree that tribalism, selfishness, and disunity among Ugandans fighting groups are responsible for the confusion that prevailed after the fall of Idi Amin?
No, for me, I don't have that simplistic analysis of society. I think, as I told you, what we are reaping is what was sown in our society. These groups cannot behave different from the way they were brought up. Therefore, they could not see the complexity of nation building. Each one, once the colonialists brought, you win with me, you get everything, you keep others out. Automatically, you can never bring people together under that formula. And you will never be able to move. And that's what happens. He who is in a position wants to make sure that everything is his. And he does not care about the others. The others have no stake. Now, I always tell my friends that it's only a fool who supports a company where he has no shares. Everybody must have a share if at all anything can be upheld by all. And don't say, so and so the majority are with me. No. Because even the small one can easily cause. One flea, which is very small, can make you completely uncomfortable in your bed, even if you had a new bride.
So what prompted you and your colleagues from UPM?
Now, having analyzed the situation very well, that the only options that left in the country were either you join a UPC or you go to DP. And for us, we knew their limitations. The UPC, we knew it had exhausted itself. It was just moving on a momentum that was put in it. But it was bound to end. And it had no ideas. The DP was a blind party. And it, except to also to get power. It had nothing very serious. So we said, no. If at all we want to save this country, we must float the third force. And that's how the idea of the UPM came up.
Why did it lose miserably?
No. First of all, we did not form anything. That's one of the greatest problems of Ugandans. They want always to start something and immediately gain. But please, think big, start small, and you'll end big. So our intention was to introduce a third force in the political arena of Uganda. Take advantage of the elections so that we introduce ourselves to the whole country and be able to tell what is going to be the next one. And that's what we said. Said, we know Obote is going to cheat. You DP, even if you win, you will not be in power. Therefore, we are not joining you because even if we join you, Obote has got all the factors to rig the elections. But we want him, if he does so, we are going to have a new method. We are going to the bush. So we had to put up that promise. And that turned out that there are two, that pronounced that there were only two serious politicians in Uganda. One Obote who said, even if I get the vote of my wife, I will rule. and he ruled. And the other one who said, if you cheat, I'll go to the bush. And he went to the bush. So those are serious ones.